you watch the General Eagle flying through the dirt, making tire squealing sounds. I'm like, huh?
Right.
Tires squeal on dirt. My uncle taught me that. He says that doesn't happen. And he says, watch, I'll show you. He took me out in his V6 Mustang, and we did a hauling ass down the laneway in the farm field, and he pulled the e-brake and slid the car. He's like, see, no squealing.
No squealing.
Tried to do a burnout, and he covered the car in mud. See, no squealing. That was my best memory. So.
Welcome to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, where we dive into the high-octane world of market-leading shop owners, shop employees, and automotive enthusiasts from the aftermarket, restoration, performance, and racing industries. So strap in as we take you on an awesome journey with our guests as they share their real-life stories, lessons learned, business advice, and unfiltered insights to help you beat the school of hard knocks. Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success.
Hello everyone, I'm Barry Alt with Motorhead Digital, and my co-host is Annette Bauer with Annette Bauer Creative. We're excited to welcome Jesse Henke, a co-owner of JH Restorations, to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast. From tinkering in the garage to gracing the halls of the SEMA show, Jesse has lived and breathed the automotive world. Since 2005, he has been dedicated to preserving automotive heritage and pushing the boundaries of performance. Most recently, his team took home a top 4 finish in the 2023 Battle of the Builders with their stunning 1987 Merkur RS4 Ti. We're pumped to have Jesse on board, so let's dive in. Both Jesse and I are in charge of the booth cars for ARMA this year, and we had one car that we're like, we need pictures, what's going on. We're actually going to send somebody out there to look at it because it's pretty nerve-wracking because of the level of car that we expect, that everybody expects to see at SEMA. So that's an awesome story, Jesse. How many cars have you taken to SEMA over the years?
We did a 65 Olds in 2017. We came back the next year for Edelbrock in 18 and built a wide-body 66 Coupe Mustang. Then we did a Toyota Celica for Edelbrock the year after that, and then COVID hit, and then we took the Merkur. So we had 4.
And tell us a little bit about the Merkur, because that got the top 4 in Battle of the Builders. It's a big deal.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said about this car. I've known it for years. Going to high school, my friend Tim, we used to bench race. He had this little Merkur. I had the Beaumont, which is better, North American. Germans engineered stuff's always going to kill North American muscle cars. But anyway, so we would go back and forth. So we drove to school in the car. We did donuts in the front yard of the school in the car. Nice. We raced through we went on lunch breaks and raced through the town of LaSalle in our cars. I had a Pontiac Grand Dam, which we won't speak of, and he had this Merkur. And I mean, all of us had cars, and we were just they were nothing special to us in what was a Merkur back in the day, but it was a lot of fun. Entering our first job, Tim and I worked together. We drove to work in the car for the first year or so of that job, and then it got put on the back burner. He was going to clone it to an RS500 car from the UK, because that's what you did in the late 90s, early 2000s. Everybody was doing it. From there, he had a career change. JH started, more focusing on the shop and building muscle cars and doing full-on builds. And there was not a lot available for Merkur, and that whole scene just kind of dropped off by about 2005, 2006. They were gone. Like, nobody was really doing much with it. So he moved away. Car got sold for way under the value to another guy that had a Merkur here. It got robbed of all its parts, and it sat in his driveway as a parts car. And right around 2019, I think, 18, 19, I'd seen the car and contacted the owner because we work with him. He does all our dyno tuning. And I said, what are you doing with that Merkur? And he says, nothing. I was going to scrap it. You want it? And so I bought the car back with what was left of the parts for the same amount that Tim sold it for him, 10 years previous. And I said, I'm going to build it. Maybe I'll build it for myself. I'll do it the way Tim was going to do it. I'll just, as I work on the weekends and stuff, I'll build a car. And then it was like, well, there's nothing left of this car. Maybe I should buy another one. So I bought another one to use the parts from that car to restore Tim's car. Well, that car was too nice. So now I have 2 Merkurs. And now enter today, I think we've got 6 of them. So there's a bunch of parts cars back, because everybody that has one needs 1 or 2 more for the parts to fix it.
Yeah.
So what happened when we bought the second one, the 89, we ended up turning it into the clone car. So I went on a a worldwide search for all the original RS 500 parts that I could find, all the cladding for that car. And in the meantime, we were working on Tim's car, and we had taken his fiberglass kit. We were trying to build onto it, make it fit the car. And then it just became apparent that, this is not going to work. And then the idea came in, let's build a SEMA car. Let's kind of take that jump and show people what can be done with a modern car. Mm-hmm. Still not supposed to be the car that it turned out to be. Supposed to be a lower scale. We weren't going to change the interior. We weren't going to do the 2-3 swap to it. We were going to leave it pretty much the way it was, update the body kit. But then as renderings went and imaginations went and drive went, the car turned into what it turned into. So we got, Ford got involved and said, why don't we do the 2-3 for the 2-3? So we did that. And then the designers said, well, if we amalgamate the front headlight panel into the front bumper, it'll clean it up. Okay, good. And then my brother said, well, why don't we build Corvette hubs so we get a five-spoke lug on it, or five-spoke wheel on it, 5-lug wheel on it, sorry. Then the car got wider, and then it exploded, and then it turned into the car that it turned into. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun building the car, a lot of memories. I hadn't talked to Tim in well over a decade. He had moved away. He kind of was living his own life. And it allowed me the opportunity to kind of reconnect with him, because when he sold the car, the ownership got lost. So it never got transferred to the new guy, but I couldn't buy the car because there's no ownership.
Right.
So I had to try to reconnect through friends to get a hold of him. So I got a hold of him. So that's, we do some reminiscing. We talk about music and video games, and we chit chat back and forth once in a while, but it also rekindles some of the other relationships I had from college and high school. So on a personal side, I have a lot more friends than I had,
Nice.
Wow. In the last few years. I brought back the old friends, and then we made a lot of new friends, and a lot of, people in the industry decided, hey, this is a really neat build. We've never seen anybody do something like this before. So it allowed us a little deeper delve into, what Ford can do, what the engineers can do, what rapid prototyping can do, and all that kind of stuff. So we did learn a lot and had a lot of fun with the car.
That's cool.
When you plan to take it, you said we're going to build a SEMA car out of this. When did you decide to enter in Battle of the Builders? Because that's a big step. And I've seen a lot of posts from SEMA lately asking for, enter your car for booth cars, Battle of the Builders. And what can you tell other builders to give them confidence that their car they should enter that, and they should get them into booths and things like that?
Well, as a car builder, what your car is. If you've been watching the industry and you're building a Camaro, you're building a Astro van, whatever it is that you're building, you look at the other vehicles that are comparable to your car, and your ability. It's even with, or no, not quite there. In your mind where you're at. But all I can say is, if you're young or older, if you're building a car that you think will stand out against a crowd, then do it. And that's what it took. Like we tried it with the wide body Mustang, and it was a Mustang. It's a wide body. It was a coupe. It was well received. It just didn't make the cut. We thought the quality level was there, but it just didn't make the cut. And there are a lot of cars that get submitted, and you wonder why. You scratch your head. How did it make it? Like when we got chosen, and we were in the Toyo Tires booth, and we're looking at Ferraris, we're looking at BMWs, we're looking at all the other fantastic cars. Why did this car get chosen? And the only thing that ever comes back to us is it is different. Nobody's ever done it before. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to do something, come out of the gate with all guns blazing with something way different, or do what other people are doing, but try to do it the best you can. Don't set out to necessarily be better. Just do your own thing the best you can. And if you're confident in that, then you should enter it in.
Yeah, enter it in, and you never know what happens, right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, because it's subjective. It's up to the people that are looking at the cars. Do they like it? Do they like the engineering? Did you do a lot of engineering? Did you go outside the box and use a theme? Did you fill it? Like with this car, it was the updated. What would Ford have done to this car had they had the tooling and the wherewithal and the drive to make it a popular car? Then what would it look like? And this is what we came up with. So it just depends on what you're working on, whether it's your craftsmanship and that's your skill. Put it all into that car. If you're a painter, do the best job you can to make the car stand out, because it's a whole encompassing package. This car is not perfect. You can look at it and say, well, look at the paint, because we built this car for Battle of the Builders, but we painted it before we ever had it in the Battle of the Builders. So the original silver paint is still on that car. Mm-hmm. We didn't strip it down to bare metal and take it all off. We fixed the problem areas and built a car, because it was never supposed to be what it was, but it turned out to be the car we wanted it to be. And it worked out.
Speaking of that car, I've seen it everywhere. You've had it ever since SEMA. that gave you a huge boost, right? Have you actually gotten any business from all the press and everything from building this car? Has it helped your business, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, and on so many levels, little bits everywhere. It's helped with suppliers. It's helped with vendors. It's helped with engineering. It's helped get things pushed through quicker. It's brought people in the door that said, "Hey, I saw your Merkur. Can you fix my Firefly?" It's helped every avenue of business. I mean, is there any one avenue that it just jumped? No. Recognition has been huge. The car has been absolutely everywhere. I mean, whether we took it to a show, but it gets posted. Battle of the Builders has done it. SEMA's done it. Wagon Fest has posted it. Everybody that's seen the cars shared it everywhere. So from a branding standpoint, I mean, everybody knows who built that car. But did it bring in a flood of new cars? No. We have 2 Merkurs builds, one from California, one from Calgary. Do I want to be a shop that builds Merkurs? No, but I mean, I will work on the cars and we'll restore them. So it's been a facet in every bit of business that's helped us out. It's helped with, on a side, it's opened doors with other builders to say, "Hey, I like what you're doing," and it allows a conversation with other shops to say, "Hey, we're working on things too. We just don't tell people." So they're starting to tell people that they're working on Supras and Civics, and because it's not the norm in the industry right now. But it is going to be the norm, and it is fast becoming more accepted to build something not so mainstream, because the generations are changing. You're always going to have the old 32 Roadsters. You're always going to have the muscle car era, but we're going to have to deal with cars like this. We've got a guy that wants to do a Beretta GTZ. Who does that? But he wants to modernize a wide body of Beretta. Okay, we'll do that. We've got another guy that wants to make an all-wheel drive car out of something that was never done that way. So we're working with people to do that because that's what they want to do. That's the cars they remember. So.
Well, I think it's cool, and it's really great that you guys are taking on that kind of approach to it, right? Because so for me, I come from the performance racing side of the industry, and kind of like you're saying, you wanted to build something that was quality that represents your shop, excuse me, but also different, right? Because like you said, that's the one thing that stood out for that car was it was different. And that definitely has a leg that it stands on within the industry, because in the drag racing realm, right, we see a billion different Camaros because they're so aerodynamic, right? Mm-hmm. But gosh, it's so nice to see a throwback to a Willys or, anything that isn't a Camaro that we just don't frequently see these days, right? We see a ton of different cars, but they're all a version of a Camaro, and you're it's cool, it's great. I'm a huge Camaro fan and I love it, but I also like seeing something different. So for example, huge highlight for me is I just did my first drag and drive last week, and as a photographer I covered the whole event, and one of the things that I absolutely loved the most about it was the variety of cars that were in it, right? Mm-hmm. From very modern cars to definite builds that were intended to be purpose-built race cars that they turned into street cars. Right. And it was just the coolest thing to see the variety that we don't often get to see, especially trackside anymore, right? We see a lot of the same stuff. Right. So I applaud you guys for taking an approach at, yes, it wasn't what it was. It didn't start out as it intended to be, but you built it into what it was supposed to be, right? And it was, like you said, very well received. And I love that you guys took a different approach.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it was done for so many different levels. I mean, for me, we go back to owning a business and where you come from, where you're going, what do you know today? I'm looking at the future. I've got these kids that are with me that are under 20 years old. I'd like to be able to pass the business down, whether I stay on as an advisor or run the business, but they have to have something to work on. They have to have, there has to be a business that recognizes the different, the new, that takes on something that people don't. And we've never done the same thing twice. We've done Camaros and we've done Novas, but none of them have ever been the same car. There's not a variation on a theme, as you kind of called it. We've done, Mopars, we've done Camaros, we've done Merkurs, we've done hot rods, we've done some work on boats. We're helping restore an airplane. Now we're going to keep those things on the outside, but as far as the core business, we've never done the same thing twice. We've got three Mopars in here at 3 very different levels of build, not quality, build, expense. I guess that's not even right the word, but build design, we'll call it that way. One's a slightly updated car, one's a more like wide mini tubbed and supercharged Gen 3 Hemi, and the next one's a roadster shop chassis car. So there's a bunch of different things that we've done, but our JH's business model is it's hard when you talk about a standpoint of what things are going to cost, because we don't do the same thing twice, but it also affords our employees to use their imagination more to get the job done. It also shows people that there's a broad spectrum of work that we can do. So we enjoy doing the different.
Yeah. And we talk about, like, for the youth generation, like, coming into the industry, right? There are so many different things that you can do. Like Barry would say, like, you don't have to come in just to wrench on a car. You don't have that doesn't have to be your primary source. Like, there's so many different avenues that you can explore within the automotive industry that allow you to shine and show what your creative talents are.
Yeah, if you could find a young person that knows computers and knows the industry and get them to run your social media. Like, I mean, we've all, as older people,
that's exactly what we've
Kevin does a
about.
fantastic job with mine. Barry, you've done with yours, but have those kids love those cars and then take what we do and promote it to the other people, because I don't know how to do it. I don't have I'm not as engaged with the youth as maybe I could be or should be, but get these kids, and that's what they do for your business, because you need that awareness. Our website traffic versus Facebook traffic and Instagram. Our Instagram's way up here. Facebook's down here, and we can see who's looking at what. And you need the younger people to share it. You also need the older people to see more on Facebook. But that's, I don't know who you knows, but it's kind of dwindling on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. They're just taking off like crazy, and all the other social media platforms.
Right.
So they get them involved from that point, or doing CAD, like a kid that likes to sit in front of his computer and design stuff, whether he's an artist or not. Get them to do renderings, and not very many people are hands-on when it comes to paper and pencil anymore. They want to draw on a computer because that's what they learn doing.
Well,
so
especially with all the 3D printing, right, and the CAD design and the machines that run off of all of that, right? Yeah. I do want to touch on one thing. I have a story about Camaros, okay, because Annette mentioned that, right? We restored back when I was learning to paint and did stuff in my garage. We restored a Camaro, but back when I was growing up, I got Carcraft magazine. If anybody remembers that, it doesn't exist anymore, if I recall. But one day I sat down a whole 12 issues of Carcraft magazine, and 10 out of 12 covers had a Camaro on it. And I was like, what? So I was a big 69. I like 69 Camaros and 70.5 Camaros. But that kind of, I went the other direction, away from them to like AMXs and things like that, and unique cars. I was never a Merkur fan, but I love your car. I love what you did with it. I always thought they were kind of strange looking, but and same with the younger generation. I used to be really, what are these rice burners? I just didn't understand them. And ever since being involved with SEMA, I really do understand them. And I think it's so cool what they're doing. I mean, the horsepower they're getting out of 4-cylinder engines and what they're doing with them is insane.
Well, and what's funny to me is, I'm not a huge fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, right? I mean, I watch it, but I watch it from a standpoint of like, that's never happening. How did they do that? It's like, come on. But being the age I am, going back and watching the earlier ones, because my kids love them. So going back and watching them now, I'm like, I get it. I understand now. I know. So it was like American Graffiti and all those are Pizza Hazard and 18 with all those cars. This is what it is to them.
Yes, 100%.
And it's just awesome because it's just a light bulb goes off. It's still the newer ones but they have the cars I love, and the kids follow them all the way through. And that's where our business, we're starting to get them from, because I grew up with Fast and Furious, but I couldn't afford the Supra, but I like the Jetta. So they were doing an all-wheel drive Jetta with an Audi TT chassis. So it's like
I like the Charger with the blower on it.
Yeah. That somehow jumps the train track with no rack.
Yeah, somehow did that and still kept going, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the General Lee folds in half, and you're like, hey, how did that do it? Or the best thing that I always remember from, one of the early lessons I learned as a kid was, you watch the General Lee go flying through the dirt, making tire squealing sounds. I'm like, huh?
Right.
Tire squealing dirt. My uncle taught me that. He says, that doesn't happen. And he says, watch, I'll show you. Took me out in his V6 Mustang, and we did a hauling ass down the laneway in the farm field, and he pulled the e-brake and slid the car. He's like, see, no squealing.
No squealing.
Tried to do a burnout, and he covered the car in mud. See, no squealing. That was my best memory. So.
Yeah. That's just like the
amazing.
shows with where they're shooting and they never have to reload. So
Yeah,
the
exactly.
people
Right.
editing this stuff don't have a clue.
Right.
John Wick. Now they did a really good job with John Wick, showing all those shots and him reloading and throwing it off.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Right.
that one they did a really
right.
good
Because
job.
he's gotten into it big time. He's actually done training and everything, so he understands that. So I think
Yeah,
he probably said, "Look, we're doing it this way."
yeah.
Right.
Who was it? The last one they did. Was it? I don't. Who was in the woman? Was it Halle Berry? Who was in the last one with them?
Oh,
Where, well, they did that gun
shoot.
training course, and it was crazy what they had to teach them to do.
Well,
Yeah.
Terran Tactical is the one that's their advisor, and that he's gone out there and trained with those guys out west. So yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
Take them
those are
from-
in the last couple episode shows. They're actually Terran Tactical firearms that they
Oh.
built for that show.
Oh, wow.
So. The Gearheads and Gasoline podcast is proudly sponsored by Redline Synthetic Oil. With a legacy of excellence and over 100 premium products, Redline provides motor oils, gear oils, assembly lubes, fuel additives, and water wetter for the automotive, racing, motorcycle, marine, and industrial markets. Known for their exceptional quality and technical expertise, Redline is trusted by enthusiasts and professionals alike. Discover their full range of products and expert support at redlineoil.com. What, as far as your shop goes, what's the major project you're working on? Do you have any key project that's like your favorite that you're working on right now?
I'm really liking how these three Mopars are coming together right now. Because they're three different cars, we have two different guys working on two of them right now, and to watch one fabricate on one car and one guy fabricate on the other car using the customer's input to put the cars together. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun watching your employees take your name and build what's in their head. So I like watching these three cars being built. The mechanics side of it, Kevin and Steve, what they're doing with there's another Mercur in the shop and the Mustang, how they can make all the old and the new work together. But I'd probably say the favorite one right now are the three Mopars. I can't pick one over all out of the three because they both have style, but it's watching the guys and what they put into the car, the passion they have, and we let them use we guide them, but they use their imagination and their vision to build the cars. So it's really nice.
Oh, that's cool. You had told me you had a shell of a car, a Mopar. Is that one of those, or is that still a future project?
It's a future project. 69 Charger is a future project that we're going to be working on. We got to get through these other ones first because this 69 is more of a back burner, our own kind of deal. So
cool. I want to ask you about some personal stuff. You had, when we do onboarding here, we ask you lots of questions, and you have mentioned your family and stuff, but you're doing camping and family time. Tell us about that, because you're actually pulling back from the shop a little bit right at night, anyways, where you're spending time with family.
Yeah, it's really important. The boys, our boys, but my wife's boys, they didn't have a lot of exposure to this side of the industry. So it's fun taking them to shows, learning and growing with them and having my influence with them. And then making the time to do it. We found that we're spending a lot of time at the shop, and it's good. But it's a double-edged sword because we talk about those families that don't teach their kids or can't teach their kids because there isn't time. I've kind of tried to make a point to spend time with them. And even our daughter, like we take her, to the shows, to the beach. We try to do, if I'm doing woodworking, I let her help paint, that kind of stuff. It's just taking a step back from the busy life, even though it somehow adds stress to your busy life because there's always something you get done from the day before that while she's playing in the sandbox or painting boards, you're thinking, I've got to get this done tomorrow.
Right.
But I think it's very important that I heed my own advice. If I'm going to bring kids in that I have no familiar connection to, then I should be bringing in my own kids and spending time with them on that level. And if I'm going to preach it, I got to practice it. So my wife and I have made a pretty good effort of trying to make sure that we're involved as much as we can be, whether it's playing video games, having a movie night, getting to the beach, going on vacation, whatever it is. And it's not extravagant. It's mostly small stuff because of the timing. They want to go to SEMA, but they can't go till they're 16.
Right.
There at some point. But yeah, just making sure I've taken enough time as a dad, and I've spent a lot of time helping the people here grow. So I want to help my kids grow too.
But I mean, exactly. It is the small things, right? Like it isn't the big extravagant things. Because I can tell you some of the best memories that I have growing up with my dad teaching me how to wrench on cars was absolutely 100% all the little things. It wasn't like, oh, hey, something specific or big, it was just all those little moments that as a kid growing up that you just like bank, right? Like you're banking all of those little times.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get older, that's, the benefit of growing older is now you get to tap into some of those little banks and, oh yeah, I remember this, and be able to share it and kind of pass that down to your own children.
Yeah, it's like you said, you hit it a nail on the head at the little moments, like, building a fort with them, showing them how to put it together. It's all cushions and tent poles and kitchen tables or whatever it is. When the boys first moved in with me, just before COVID, they were moved in the January just before COVID hit. And the thing we did was we built a fort with them. And they slept in the first summer of COVID. They slept in that fort the entire summer.
No kidding.
That's where they spent their whole time. So that was 4 years ago, and they still talk about it. And now they're building forts with their little sister, building tunnels and incorporated her crib into it and all that other kind of stuff. So now I'm too old to lay down on the ground. I got bad knees. I can't get into so now I'm like, hey, you guys built it. You can play in it with her.
Right.
So I set up the big screen, and we put a big tent over the TV so it looks like it's like a movie theater. So we hang the blankets over it and watch a movie from inside the fort. But,
that's awesome.
So it's good. It's a lot. It's all those little things, teaching them to cook, fishing, whatever it is. So.
Yeah,
exactly. Those are things I remember. Annette talked about wrenching with her dad. I learned a lost art of working on drum brakes from my dad. So, that's something I remember, and I can do it with my eyes closed. So, not that I want to.
Well, I think when I was working on the race cars, we were rebuilding carburetors, and I could do it, but we haven't installed a carburetor on a car in 10 years. It's all been fuel injection stuff. Not to say that Steve can't work his way through it or I can't work my way through it. It's just a lost technology, right?
It is.
So
I can say I'm tearing apart the interior of my '69 Corvette. And it's
how's that going?
Right now it's just sitting there because I haven't been feeling well, but now I have extra. I have to find panels for it. I have to do other stuff. I'm looking at it and finding wiring that needs to be fixed.
All those little plastic Velcro tab things you got to stick on, and they all break and fall off. And
well, there's one strip that goes underneath the back window that is supposed to be like 2 screws and those Velcro tabs. They glued it on. It does not come off. Okay. I'm looking at it going, what are these? Because I have all the build layouts where it's all taken apart and it shows everything what the build sheets they use in the factory, not build sheet. There's a plan, I guess. Yeah. And I'm looking at this going, there's a lot of screws here that don't look like they're supposed to be. So I took them all out, and it's like it still doesn't come off. I'm like, what the hell? They glue this freaking thing on here, and then other parts that are the tabs that are broke. And everybody's saying don't buy the remanufactured stuff. I pulled the center out of the shift console, right? I bought a new one, and it had little cracks on the corner. I pulled it off, and it went bloop, flattened right out. It had been broken for years, but it's, when I look at the picture that it was in our last newsletter, it's kind of scary looking. So I've been taking lots of pictures. So I remember how to put it back together. But I've had to dash all apart in the past a long time ago, and we'll get it. But I was going to put a radio in it, and I decided, hey, Randall, I need some carpet. Might as well do carpet. And the whole project is
cars are built from the ground up, Barry. You got to remember foundation, and then the floor, and the sound deadening, and then the radio.
So I'm looking at sound deadening as well. So I got the carpet and the proper backing for sound deadening, but I'm looking at put other sound deadening in. And yeah, the radio is going to be a while yet, because that's where I started with getting the radio. And then I
saw that. I saw your little post. I'm like, wow, he's already ready for the radio. He sounds like a customer.
No, it's not. It's still in the boxes. Yeah. So anyway, so finding parts for Corvettes is always fun. So that's where my challenge is right now, and it's getting to be winter, and so I'll be working out there with a salamander, I'm sure.
It doesn't get any better or any easier when you go to a purpose-built car, Barry, just so you know. Like, for the C7 that we have, like, we had to source a new glass front end because we wrecked the car, and that was a whole issue in itself. So, yeah, like, it was it doesn't get any easier.
No, I'm not whining. I'm just saying, man, I Jesse, everybody that does this for a living, more power to you. I don't think I could do it every day.
There are days, man. We have a 69 Lincoln in here, and take it all apart and fix the power windows and test them out 10 times, and it works. Put it back together, windows don't work. What's going on? And then it's like, take it apart, put the window motors, and you don't want to replace parts. You want to find the problem.
Right.
And we've every which way we've had this car apart, and it's like the bane of my existence right now.
It's fighting you at every direction.
Well, my BOCE, we have BOCES here. It's a tech school during high school, and I went to auto services junior and senior year, and our teacher was very adamant, we are not parts replacers. And this is back when you rebuild fuel pumps and starters and things like that, right? So I hear you.
Yeah. And it could be, because at the end of the day, it's the customer's money, but it's also your time. Yeah. And sometimes you got to admit defeat. We don't like to admit defeat, so we're gonna get this car figured out. But everybody in the shop is just scratching their head. My brother, who's like the wiring guru, and the mechanics, and Tyler, who knows the car inside and out, we're all just kind of scratching our head. You test the wiring, it's got continuity, but there's no way to test how much amperage is going through that possibly corroded wiring. So when you run the motor off a test drill or you run the switches off it, it all works. But then you go to put it back under the car's power, where it works 10 times, and then it doesn't. Yeah. So who knows?
Well, that you talk about that. I've had the whole gauge cluster out of the 69 and the dash pad off. Went to sign out the gauges to get fixed. This is 10 years ago, right? Went to put it back together. You have to have that wiring harness that runs across in the perfect spot. It has to be right in the perfect spot, or the stuff will not go back together. It's that tight in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it drove me nuts.
Are you doing a resto mod on it, or are you trying to do a strict restoration on it? Or?
Let's say it's a number matching car, but I don't have any documentation, so that's why we're putting a more modern radio in it. We're adding some modern stuff, Willwood brakes, things like that, TKX transmission, but I'm not getting too farther. Yeah. Too much farther than that. I may go with fuel injection someday.
Oh yeah, you got to go fuel injection.
I have Tri-Power though, so I know they make Tri-Power fuel injection now, so it's very enticing to me. But that's a number matching.
It's cumbersome to get it all to work properly, but yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to go there, but I want to make it more drivable. We're going to put some bent steel suspension parts on it, and things to make it more.
So you're resto modding it, nice.
Yeah. The long and short of it is
it's a resto mod.
It's a resto mod, and it's going to cost me lots of money.
It's the automotive industry, Barry. Welcome to it. Yeah. We all spend entirely too much money on it.
Look, that's why I'm not working on it every day, because I want to have fun and enjoy it. So I'm working on it when I in the mood and can deal with it. Because like you, Jesse, I get very frustrated very quickly sometime, and I'm very determined to figure something out. My biggest concern is, and I've been taking lots of pictures, that I remember how to put everything back together. So I'm bagging and tagging everything. I know how to do that. It doesn't all go in a big bucket. But anyways, so we have a cool thing called a speed round here, and Annette is the expert at that. So
I am. But actually, I have a question for you before we get into the speed round.
Let's do that.
So you had mentioned, which again, I'm a huge fan of, that it's cool for you now to take and see the knowledge that you have learned through your years, and to watch the kids that are in your shop now kind of take their creative license and build their versions of, what you guys are working on, right? To kind of take their own ingenuity within scope, right? I absolutely love that you guys are doing that. But where my question is that now that you've had the chance to, you went through that, okay, I learned it, I grew up through it, now I'm able to bring younger generations into it, and yet I get to watch them do that and kind of get that that happiness and joy from watching them do that kind of stuff, right? Expressing themselves. But what would you tell the younger you, right? If you took all the knowledge and everything that you've seen and everything that you experienced to right now, what would you tell the younger you?
Stop, get out, don't do it.
No,
No, I mean,
Wrong answer.
no, I think it just goes back to that. Be comfortable with who you are and do it your own way. Because growing up, we all saw like Chip Booth, and you look at the Ring Brothers, and you look what all these other incredible builders are doing.
Yeah.
But if you look at what they're all doing their own thing. They have their own confidence, their own skill set, and they're doing it their way. So don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself, and be comfortable knowing what you know. So
Today's podcast is sponsored by Motorhead Digital. Motorhead Digital are digital marketing experts for your automotive aftermarket, restoration, performance, race, and restyling shop. They help you supercharge your shop's website, social media, and entire online presence to attract those badass customers you're looking for. Check us out at motorheaddigital.com.
And I think that like you're like you had said, you're practicing what you preach, right? Because you said it yourself, your own words, that you're loving being able to see those kids come in and put their own spin, take what's creatively in their mind and build it out, right? So you are practicing what you're preaching, and I love that. And so that's why I wanted to ask the question to see if there was like maybe something different that you would share based on that, but you're true to that, and I love that you came right back to that.
like I said, because what that does, because like I said before, JH doesn't do anything the same way twice. Well, we've got 15 employees that we allow, for the most part, to do things their own way. So now it's not my way. When we go to a show, it's like, this is what this guy brought to the table. His specific part of the build. He goes out and sees that, or she goes out and sees that in her car on a world stage. And then that gets them excited. So it drives everybody forward all the time.
Heck yeah. And it makes them bigger advocates, not only for your shop, but for what you do, right? And how that influences the industry.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. All right. So now that my question is out of the way. So the way that our speed round works is I don't want you to put too much thought in your responses. I actually want it to be whatever comes to the top of your mind. And we're going to go through a couple of questions and just, again, quick and easy.
Sure.
So first one is, what's your favorite race driver, team, hot rod, muscle car, or truck?
Oh, Richard Petty.
Oh, okay.
Always
Richard
was a big
Petty
fan.
right there, 43, brother.
Always a big fan. He was the driver I wanted to see on NASCAR. He's the one I wanted to watch all the way through on race day. So I have Richard Petty. I loved his his determination and his involvement with his kids in the sport. Always loved it.
Nice. I love that. Next question. What is your favorite tool in your toolbox?
My eraser. Just you screw up and you erase the mistake. No, I don't know. A flat screwdriver, because I go in there, I pry paint cans on with it, and I pry bezels off with it. I don't know. That first thing that comes to my mind is a flat screwdriver.
Technically, the first thing that came to your mind was
the eraser. Yeah.
That too. All right. Do you have a favorite racetrack, an event, or maybe a car show?
I really like the exposure in Good Guys. I love the shows, the variety. It was the first one I went to that was like mind-boggling when you walked in, because we're used to local shows here. So what Good Guys does with the events, I think that would probably be any of the Good Guys stuff. They get involved with the autocross, the racing. You got the high show cars. You got the guys that build their own. There's just a lot, and the variety is huge. It's the closest. It's the closest big event to us. Is Good Guys.
Is there any specific Good Guys show that you like? Because I know there's a number of them throughout the country.
The Columbus event. It's the biggest one, and it's the closest one to us. It's the easiest one for us to get out and get away to, and it was the one that we got to meet all the big guys when we made it there. So. Always been
So I'm going to segue real quick because you hit on something. So is there anybody that you, for lack of a better term, that you fanboy over?
Really do like what Jonathan Goolsby does with his business model. He's a very low key guy, but he's got this really quirky, awesome personality. But I like what he's done with the industry, with the youth, what he does to promote his business, and his dedication to his craft. Really enjoy what he does.
Nice. Love it. All right, I'll get back to my speed round.
Don't show Jonathan that part now.
All right, so this last question that I ask stumps every one of our guests. So if you think on it a bit, it's okay. Mm-hmm. What is the best advice you've ever received, and from whom?
Do I have to think about it? If you're going to do something right, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time. It was my dad.
Nice. I love that. I love that it came back to your core, right? It came back to where you started.
It's very cool. Probably the first lesson that we learned as a kid, that I remember learning as a kid. Like whether it was cutting lawn, building Legos, putting your clothes away. Don't waste your time. Do it right the first time, and you won't have to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
I learned that a long time ago. I found out the hard way by not having the right tools. You know, get the right tools when you start, because you're going to end up doing things over and over again, right? So that's the same kind of thing. Do it right the first time, get the right tools for the job. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Both my dad and my husband have drilled into my head of like, if you took it out of the toolbox from a certain place, put it back in the toolbox in that same place.
That one was lacking on our end. My brother and I are slobs. My dad did a good job, but I think somewhere in there he didn't make us pick up after ourselves, because we don't.
So you're the one that goes, where's that flathead screwdriver now that I need it?
I know where it is. It's not where it should be. It's where I left it. It's under the carpet in the customer's car. It's in the car.
Right.
In the toolbox.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Well, it's hilarious to you guys and in this conversation, but man, the guys in the shop hate it. We'll come in and we'll be working on a job, and we're most notorious for, okay, we need that screwdriver, so we do that job, and then we leave the screwdriver right there, and we go on and do another job, and it's still there 2 days later because we didn't come back. Because our mind is like in the moment, get it done, and then forget to clean up after.
Yeah, that's why my husband is always like, put it back. Put it back where you took it from. Put it back.
I try to instill it in my kids, but then they're like, but Jesse, you didn't put the plates away either.
You're like, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, that's a life lesson too. I guess that would be my dad's second one, was do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, I think we all get that, and that's the best response I've ever had as a parent. I'm like, yes, I get to use it.
Yep.
So true. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Cool. Well, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Jesse, for joining us today. We've had a awesome time.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. Annette, Barry, we really appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great meeting you. It was absolutely awesome learning about your business, learning about some of the ups and downs and the experiences that you've had, and things that, you shared with our audience to help them grow and be better in their businesses. And just overall be more open to different things. So again, yes, thank you so much for joining the podcast. And always, Gearheads and Gasoline is here fueling your success.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
We know you don't want to miss an episode, so don't forget to smash that bell so that you get notified of every new episode. Click that like button, leave us a comment, and share with your people. And visit us repeatedly. We love it.